Okay, the last thing that was there was Angela saying seesaw.
No. Angela saying seesaw?
Yeah. None of your stuff, Cal.
No. All right. Thank you, Jenny.
You're welcome. So
all right.
20 minutes at 2023. It stopped. I'm getting emails now. Let's see. Yes.
It's going to be right back.
Okay. So I would just pause for a second because the delay is like a 30-second delay.
Yes.
All right. So Angela, I'm going to mute and you're going to restart.
Yep. It's live. So should be live now.
All right. Hi, everybody. I understand that we lost some connectivity. So I'm going to go ahead and start a couple bullet points back so that we can make sure everybody gets the right information. Okay. All right. So never a dull moment. This is good. All right. So breaks will be scheduled between each class period to reduce consecutive time spent on the screen. So teachers will do that according to the age and stage of students. You know, obviously our kindergarten students will need more breaks than our 5th grade students. Teachers will communicate due dates when applicable and will post them on the learning management system. So in other words, if they use Seesaw or Classroom, they will post the due dates of assignments on those systems. Classroom communication will be predictable in a predictable format and will follow a predictable schedule. So teachers will communicate with you on a regular basis and on a scheduled basis. So grading, and this is important, teachers will be grading and or marking assignments as they're completed. Okay, teachers will provide feedback on the work students submitted. And we will continue, like Mrs. Perio said, to use a standard-based report card. And that's all that I have. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mrs. Benatti again, and we're going to talk about scheduling.
Thank you, Mrs. Aguilar. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kelly Benatti. I am the principal of R.P. Connor Elementary School. A lot of what I'm going to share was already said by Mrs. Perio, but I want to reiterate how scheduling is going to work in the elementary level. So we will be following the ABCD rotating schedule. We'll be looking out for that. So we'll be following the ABCD rotating schedule. And on those days, students will have certain preps and certain opportunities. So you'll be looking out for that. Student schedules will include academic periods. There'll be math, language arts, social studies, science, and there'll be lunch specials, which is art, music, PE, and there will be an intervention block. And those will be scheduled and shared by the classroom teacher. Teachers will be available for live support during their scheduled instructional blocks. All students will have lunch spread out across the grade levels, and this is to provide additional and schedule support for students throughout the day. So if you have a kindergartner and a 5th grader, they don't have lunch at the same time. That is really for us to be able to schedule the supports throughout the school day for all students. There will be scheduled synchronous class periods that will provide daily opportunities for meaningful student interaction and collaboration. Teachers will provide their students with a daily schedule to follow. In the springtime, when we first went out, many of you had received a weekly schedule with assignments. We are not going to be doing that this go around. Your child will take attendance in the morning, be part of a morning meeting, and then the flow of the day will follow. So that's a shift from the springtime. Asynchronous assignments will provide opportunities for students to engage in standards-based learning activities and assignments outside of regularly scheduled class periods. There will be direct instruction will be recorded and made available for students in the learning management system, which is, it could be Seesaw, it could be Google Classroom, and this is really to maintain equity and access for all students. Schedules will be created to provide consistent support for students as described in their IEP and any other requirements for mandated services. Teachers will not necessarily be face-to-face with all students at the same time for the duration of a class period. So your child will maybe be given an assignment to have a go, to try something, and then to report back. So please know there is independent practice built in, and that is part of the gradual release model and work that we do during the regular school day. And teachers, as Ms. Aguilar said, will provide feedback to students and families at regularly scheduled intervals. It could be weekly. In terms of technology and connectivity, students will be provided a device for use in school and at home. That device is an iPad, and that is for students in grades K through 5. There will also be Wi-Fi access will be provided for students who are in need. I'm now going to turn it over to Mrs. Druss, the principal of Viola Elementary School, and she's going to speak to interventions.
Hi, good evening. My name is Christine Druss. I'm the principal of Viola Elementary. Mrs. Perriot and the other principals shared a little bit and referred to the IE block. I have to provide a little more detail for you. This block is a critical block. This block drives our schedule. It is a tremendous amount of coordination and planning that goes among schools and within providers in order to provide a multi-system of support. Intervention and enrichment blocks will be scheduled for each grade level. A 30-minute IE block may be split or can be consecutive at each school. This will allow for various related services as well as enrichment, including instrumental and band lessons, to also occur in these remote sessions, just as they occur in our traditional model with students across our buildings. Teachers will be able to pull small groups of students who are not receiving services at the time for review and small group instruction. So for those kids who, when they're going out to these different sessions, the teachers who have students left with them will be able to do that small group support during that time. Schedules will be created to provide consistent support for students as described in their individual IEP and/or requirement for mandated services. Resource room, AIS, reading, mathematics, and E&L. Teachers may join a classroom's teacher's learning management system, for example, whether it's Google Classroom or Seesaw. They will be able to also create their own Seesaw or Google Classroom in the best way that supports their students' needs. So this flexibility will be allowed by each grade and each provider to decide what is best. To break this down into further detail and to clearly articulate the amount of professionals and experts that Suffern Central School District has working in the block, I will share a little further. Co-teachers and/or consultant teachers also have access to the general education Google Classroom or Seesaw classes to provide work and/or information regarding appropriate accommodations for students. Speech and language pathologists will use Google Meet to synchronously engage with students. Google Classroom and/or Seesaw can be used by them to post activities and assignments for students to access. Occupational therapists will use Google Meet to synchronously engage with students, Google Classroom and/or Seesaw, and they will post activities and assignments for students to access. School psychologists will also use, along with any clinician, Google Classroom or Seesaw to post applicable information and resources for students to access. Google Meet and email will be used to communicate with students and their families with regard to supports within the intervention and enrichment block. So as you can see, that this block is a very important block because it allows us to provide very supportive and very particular and specialized supports to students. So this is a block that we take very seriously and that we will continue in just like in this model as we do in our traditional model. I now like to turn it over to Billy Castellane, Dr. Castellane at Sloatsburg Elementary.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Billy Castellane. I would like to just talk about FLES, music, art, and physical education. So basically our specials and what they will look like for the month of September. Students will follow a daily schedule, as you've heard, that will include art, music, FLES, and physical education at a specific time for the class. Just like the traditional school model, the students will have art and music once in a 4-day cycle, and physical education will occur twice in a 4-day cycle. The students will begin each class with a synchronous meetup for their encore classes, where additional instructions will be given. This may include synchronous and/or asynchronous lessons. Teachers will not necessarily be face-to-face with the students for the entire time of the period. However, they will come back together at the end of the period. And this is basically to give some of the students breaks from screen time. As far as grading goes for the special areas, teachers will be following the grading and marking assignments to be completed. Teachers will provide feedback on the work that the students submit. The standards-based report card grading, as you can see on the Suffern website, will be followed. I now turn it over to Dr. Ivy, who will talk about social emotional learning.
Thank you, Dr. Castellane. So I get to close this piece out with one of the more exciting topics, which is social emotional learning. And I think it's something that we can all agree is something that we have to take very seriously right now, not only for our children, but also for ourselves. Our health and well-being, our mental health and well-being is extremely important. And I think we can also all agree that it has been put to the test over the last few months. Great news is that our district, once again, is ahead of the curve in this area. 2 years ago, we started working with the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence with Dr. Mark Brackett. I just happen to have one of the books that we're reading as a team. It's an excellent book if you'd like to pick it up and have some time to read before the summer ends, Permission to Feel. And what we are going to make sure that we are doing and continuing to do it in our schools is continue to teach students the strategies to help them with their social emotional skills. What this may look like is something in morning announcements. There might be something in the morning meeting. The teachers do it through conversations when they are teaching different books that they're using, different writing that they are teaching students. It lives in the curriculum already, but what we do is we just make more of, it's more explicit in terms of the vocabulary that we use. Last year, you may have attended a family night for Yale EI, where you learned words such as a mood meter or a charter. These are ruler strategies. All of this can be looked up online, by the way. If you just look at the Yale Emotional Intelligence webpage, there are so many resources for parents and for the teachers as well. It is a comprehensive curriculum that we follow. And like I said, it's embedded and it comes very naturally for all of our teachers and throughout the district. But it is really significant, and we wanted to make sure that you were aware that when we return to school, that we are aware of the changes that our children have experienced, that you have experienced at home, and that we are going to come back. It's going to be exciting. Children want to be in school, and I'm sure that there are some that are a little bit anxious about it, but we are going to be there and we're going to be prepared so that when they do walk through those doors and when we see them online, they're excited, they feel connected, they feel cared for. Those are the most important things. So that is a promise that we can make to you, is that we will do everything we can in our power to help them with their transition and to make them comfortable and excited to learn, and to help them understand that this is going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. But it really is a great resource for parents as well, the same way it is for all of us. So Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, if you want to get a little bit more information on that. And you'll hear more about that as the year begins.
Thank you. So I'd like to talk about some of the common upcoming events that will take place between all the elementary schools. Over the next couple of weeks, you'll receive information on kindergarten orientations, the virtual Meet the Teacher night, a time and date for remote resources to be picked up, and a welcome back event for each of the PTAs. So these items are still being discussed and will take place. So be on the lookout for these events over the next couple of weeks. And we can tell you that we will follow all CDC guidelines for these events. So with that said, I'd like to thank everyone and turn this back over to Mrs. Weber.
Thank you, principals. So at this time, we are going to turn on the chat feature so we can see your live questions. So we're going to take a minute. That takes a minute or so to happen. So we're just waiting for our chat to become enabled. And then we will, hopefully we've answered some of your questions already. I know there were a lot of questions about schedule and what to expect. So I think we've done, explain that. So Mr. Coronado, I am still seeing the chat is disabled. Maybe I have to refresh.
Yeah, I turned it on.
It works now. Okay, so if like me, you're following along and you refresh, you will see that the chat is now enabled. And so you can put your questions into that chat. And then Ms. Mermelstein is going to help us, navigate those questions. So you may need to refresh if you're watching it on YouTube. When I refreshed, I was able to see it. And we have our first question. I do want to comment that it is thundering over my house in Montebello. So, it works now. Yes. Okay, so if like me, you're following along and you refresh, you will. Okay.
Okay, I am not seeing my chat for some reason.
Okay, so I see it. So while you're fixing that, I'll start with the first question. Was a question about requesting technology. How do we request tablets? So we will be providing devices to all elementary students. Will be provided with an iPad. That will occur for kindergartners, may occur at orientation. Or it will occur early in September for other students. I know many students have their device from last year. And so we will be sending a form out about that if you need additional devices. You didn't take a device last year, or you're a new student. Principals, do you have anything to add to that?
No.
Okay, Lee, I'm back.
Okay.
So let's really quick say, are we answering questions regarding the hybrid model, or we're really only talking about the fully remote model at this point?
We will answer questions about the transition to hybrid, not so much about the details of hybrid.
So do we know what some of the criteria will be to reopen in October?
Yes, we don't have, specific quantitative data that we're using to guide us. We are using the experiences of our neighboring districts and our own experiences. One of the questions we've been posed is, well, why are you having orientations if you're not having school? Well, one of the reasons is so that we can test out our protocols on smaller groups of students. So if we have smaller groups of students in more controlled environments, we can test out our protocols, make sure they're effective and practical. A protocol doesn't work if it takes us an hour to unload a bus of students. So we want to make sure that our protocols are effective and practical. So that provides us the opportunity, as we have experiences for in-person activities during the month of September. By the end of September, if we're comfortable, we're not seeing a second wave coming. Our infection rates in the county, I got more good news today about the infection rates in the county, are still very low. If they remain very low with some of our neighboring districts going back, those will all contribute to that decision. I know this is people have different opinions on this, but the goal here is to get to hybrid. It's to get to hybrid safely.
Great. Speaking of that, if a family has a K-1 student that is going to be able to go 4 days during hybrid, but an older sibling who only goes two, can a K-1 student opt out of a 4-day class?
The K-1 students will be expected to either attend on all 4 days or be 100% remote.
Great. Do we have any other details on how we're going to be working with children that might be very anxious or have a hard time functioning in this remote environment?
Well, I could probably answer that one. If you have a child who is extremely anxious or having difficulty even working in a remote environment, you should email the principal or those of us at Pupil Personnel Services, specifically elementary is Ms. Joanne McDonough, and we can offer you some specific support for your child.
Can we also just say that we're also going to be doing a lot of relationship building and community building? And although we are not brick and mortar starting out in September, our goal is to build relationships and collaboration, have students see their classmates, and really to have a start that makes everyone feel really good about being together. So that should hopefully ease some of the anxiety about returning to school.
Is there any discussion around the idea of making the daily schedule a little bit more fluid to accommodate working parents, or to give all of the work up front in the morning? A lot of people are saying because they're working, they may not be able to do the work with their student during the day, but might be able to front load it or do it more at the end.
I can take that. So one of the things that will be available are recordings of the direct instruction. And we recognize that, especially at the elementary level, that there is going to be a degree of parent support that it will be required. So you will just communicate with the teacher and just let the teacher know what the situation is in your household, and the teachers will work with you and your child.
Okay. Can we pick up our pre-ordered school supply pack at the school? When is that happening? How do we know what that's going to look like?
Yes, that'll be through the PTAs. So the PTAs usually organize that once the supplies are in, and that'll be a drive-through type of pickup.
And just to confirm, all K through 5 are receiving an iPad?
Yes, all K through 5 students will receive an iPad. For kindergartners who are receiving it for the first time, or even parents whose children had difficulty last year, when it's picked up, we'll check to make sure the student can log in. And we hope to have some videos for parents to help navigate Google Classroom and Seesaw. Great.
How does the amount of synchronous learning planned correspond to the recommended guidelines for screen time? Like, is there an idea of like online synchronous learning screen time versus, asynchronous off screen time activities?
So guidelines for screen time have been taken into account and will likely change across the year. What our students will be able to do at the start of the year will be different from what they'll be able to do at the end of the year. Attention spans will be different at the start of the year. So our teachers will sort of read the room and read the screen and adjust their instruction accordingly. So there are guidelines, and they are the ones that we used in the spring. So the blocks of instruction won't be longer than those that were listed previously, but they might even be shorter than that at the start of the year based on what children are able to attend to.
Great. And kind of building off that a little bit, will children be penalized if they can't get everything done in the school day, if they happen to be at a daycare or another facility where they're not able to be there online all day?
Absolutely not.
I don't know if we know this question, but do we know if the YMCA will be doing schoolwork with kids or
so that's one of the things we're working out with them. I do anticipate that they will support the remote learning experience. That's one of my requests to them.
Okay, great. I don't know that this was said, but when K1 moves to hybrid, if and when they move to hybrid, and are there 4 days a week, is it a full day or is it a half day?
It's a full day. And I also saw a quick question about special education. Our self-contained special education classes in K5 will also be 4 days a week.
Great. Will enrichment be part of the IE blocks?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have an idea of how the schedule of classes will look?
Can we have, maybe there was a sample remote schedule. Maybe Ms. Aguilar, can you stop sharing? And Ms. Perio, can you share that sample remote schedule that's in our plan?
I can, but it will take me a minute.
Okay.
Okay. So maybe we can take another question in the meantime.
Yep. Do we know what the amount of, this might go with this too, the amount of time the teacher will be teaching a synchronous lesson versus an asynchronous lesson?
I think that's really going to vary. It depends what they're teaching and who they're teaching it to. Kindergarten and 5th grade are very different. Math and reading may even be different. We do try and keep, our instructional model at the elementary level is a mini lesson, partner work, and moving to more independent work, so that we do try and keep our direct instruction short at the elementary, in smaller chunks rather than in a large chunk like you would see at the secondary level.
Will you consider having the older grades be allowed to do an in-person meet and greet with teachers instead of online?
That's a question for Wednesday night, and we will be prepared to answer that Wednesday night with the secondary principals.
No, I think they might mean like fourth and fifth grade.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, do you want to, Sue? I see that you have it up there, so.
Yeah, so that's just a sample. So you can see the way the blocks are set up there. I know it's probably very small on your screen, and it's a little bit fuzzy too, I'm sure. But what you see in gray are the IE blocks, the intervention and enrichment blocks that really drive the schedule. And one thing to notice about them is that none of them ever overlap. And that's because we have the same service providers providing services to all the different grade levels. So in a previous session, a parent had asked about why can't we line up the lunch periods? That's why we can't line up the lunch periods, because access to our specialists and clinicians needs to be coordinated very carefully across the day. So again, these are just samples, but you see here that there's the visual attendance and morning meeting. There are specific blocks of time, and the times might be a little shorter for kindergarten than for, say, fifth grade. The white space on here represents breaks in between. And the idea is that, even during these blocks of time, that a teacher will be in the space there ready to support students, but the student might not have their screen on the entire time. They might walk away and go on, let's say they're doing phonics and they're doing a hunt around their house for sounds or objects that begin with the sound that they're learning about. So it will be still playful, and it doesn't have to be in front of a screen the entire time, but the teacher is there to support, which I know as a working parent myself is reassuring if you're able to coordinate that.
Ms. Terrio, is this schedule linked to our remote learning plan?
I don't think so.
Yes, it is. Wait.
Okay, yes, it is.
The schedule is linked to the remote learning plan, so parents can get to it through that, and they can also get to it through the Thursday presentation that we did. It was also in Thursday's presentation. So if they go on the website, look for Thursday's presentation, which was the general forum, it has it, and then also the remote learning plan has it.
Can I just say that each individual schools have taken a sample and created their own? So it's not going to look identical to that for RP Connor, Viola, and the other schools. We have different service providers and different needs across the school. So this is just a sample. It's not what's going to actually be in every building.
Great. If a parent opts to keep their child 100% remote, will their assignment to a particular teacher be adjusted when hybrid begins?
No, they'll be with their class all year. While we recognize that parents who want 100% remote are very committed to that decision, we also know that life changes and things happen, and we have to be prepared really for that student to come back either hybrid or in person. We have to be prepared for that possibility. So we will have those children scheduled into their classes. We won't be moving them around, in other words.
Great. And if they choose to keep kids home, the therapies, if they receive speech, OT, or PT, or counseling, that will be provided through Google Meet as well still?
Yeah, all of the related services, if you choose fully remote, will be provided remotely, as well as any special ed services that you receive.
Okay. How are kids receiving information from classroom teachers? Are there going to still be mailed packets, and will supply lists and everything be in there?
We posted our supply list to Peachjar for the most part, and we will send the welcome letter out at the end of August, as Ms. Aguilar shared. And inside that will be a welcome letter from the building principal and the classroom teacher, and the teachers will be communicating through email once they have all their email addresses confirmed.
Is it possible to obtain these lists sooner than the end of August so that families can create and coordinate arrangements to learn together and or provide childcare for each other.
Yeah, the lists are available on Peachjar.
No, I mean the teacher assignments.
No, we are not prepared to send them out until August 31st.
What does the time of the start of the day look like? Will it be staggered for each different elementaries, or are we putting them all at the same time?
When we're hybrid, they do need to be staggered because of our busing. The same reason they're normally staggered, so they'll continue to be staggered. I believe that on one of the earlier slides, the start and end times for school were up, which are staggered from the earliest to the latest by half an hour, with Sloatsburg in the middle there. And so they're the same stagger we normally have.
Anything that you can speak to about district-based students, BOCES students? Are they receiving technology through Suffern or BOCES? How is that going to work?
I believe they receive technology through BOCES, but we'll double check on that. Dr. Costado, correct me if I'm wrong.
Right. So if they're our students, they could be getting it from BOCES, but at times we've provided it ourselves if it's a very specialized piece of technology. So it's somewhat individualized circumstance. If it's another district student who goes to a BOCES program in our buildings, they get it from either BOCES or their district.
And the BOCES programs that are housed in our buildings will be fully remote in September, but will be 4 days a week when we get back, assuming they can from a space perspective.
So all BOCES programs do follow the district in which they sit. So if there's someone listening right now whose child, let's say, goes to Farley Middle School, which is in North Rockland, whatever North Rockland is doing and Farley Middle School is doing, that BOCES program will do that. So anything that's embedded in another district follows the other district.
Can you just briefly go back and discuss pre-K for a moment?
Yes. So in the effort to guarantee our kindergartners and first graders a 4-day-a-week in-person hybrid experience, in a couple of situations, we had our class size exceeded the capacity of the room. So for example, we might have had 20 or 21 students in a room that would only hold 16 socially distanced. I mean, these are big rooms, but when there's, when we have to all be 6 feet apart in them, maybe the room only held 16. So in a couple of places, we needed to create an additional section. In order to do that, we needed to staff those classrooms. To do that without putting a pressure on the budget, we did that by reallocating our pre-K staff into one case into a kindergarten classroom and one case into a first grade classroom, so that we can provide this 4-day experience for all of our kindergarten and first grade students. While anyone who knows me knows I have advocated for our pre-K program since it was still an idea on paper. I fully support our pre-K program. We have an amazing, outstanding pre-K program. I was so excited to expand it this year. Unfortunately, because of these staffing needs, we have to do this. The good news is all of our pre-K students will still have pre-K opportunities, just not in our building. So they will have opportunities to participate in pre-K in all of our community-based organizations. So it's unfortunate they won't be with us, but we can't wait for them to be with us again next year.
There's a question here about how incoming kindergarten students get access to everything being mentioned, like Connect Ed, Peachjar, Seesaw, Google, etc. I can speak really quickly to Peachjar. That's online through our website. You can go onto your school and click on Peachjar and see all of the things that are there and actually subscribe through Peachjar. But if anybody else wants to speak about Seesaw, Google, or Connect Ed.
So as soon as they are registered and they begin the school year, they then become part of the Connect Ed system. So we have been collecting email addresses from the incoming kindergartners and sending separate messages to those families to keep them abreast of what is happening. As terms of, what was the other part? Seesaw. When they start school, the teachers will take them through how to access it, how to move through it, how to post. We'll take our time and go super slow and make sure that the kids are really comfortable with how to use a device and access the various applications and resources.
We also, just to add on to, have created videos. So parents will be able to use the videos. They'll be available to all schools. Staff have created them during the summer. So those will be available for parents to watch as many times as needed, and students can watch those. So those are also available across all buildings.
Great. Can we discuss technology and help desks and the how we'll be able to kind of fix our technology if it breaks, or get tech help if we need it?
Sure. So we'll have, as I mentioned earlier, we will have device distribution for those who need it, either through the orientations or right as school is starting. Each school will also have a tech help desk where a student or parent will be able to turn in a device that's not working, get a new device back that is working, make sure they can log in and all of that. In terms of tech help, in terms of using various programs, that will largely be through the videos that Mrs. Dross mentioned and through the teacher. So if it's a hardware issue, there'll be a place at the school to exchange devices and to get a new device. If it's a user, it's how to do something, that'll be done either through video or through the teacher.
Can we talk about, well, this is all hybrid, so hold on. What about holidays and vacations if we stay fully remote? Does that change?
Well, unless the governor changes it again, and I really hope he doesn't. He pretty much upset me last year when he took away our spring break. So unless the governor does something like that again, we should have all our holidays and breaks.
I don't know what this means. Will you be utilizing Bitmoji classrooms in Google Meet to help students navigate? I don't know that. Maybe.
That would really be an individual decision for the classroom teacher.
Some teachers have created them, but it's an individual thing that some teachers have created and some may or may not be using it, but it is, available technology that teachers have, made available.
And it's not something that we are requiring by any means. This is, that's the Bitmoji classrooms, for example, while the layout of them may be good. I actually just tweeted something about that today. It can also be something that winds up taking some time and attention away from actually planning lessons and preparing for this remote learning, just to create something that looks, pretty or exciting. But they're actually really just did, I think it was Education Weekly or something, just did an article that I tweeted today about that. So there's definitely some good benefits to it, but then there's also some stuff that can distract from the actual teaching and learning. But I think that would be, individual teacher decisions.
You can find all of the school building Twitter accounts on the district website under communications, or visit each of the schools individually, and you can see all of their Twitter accounts. So if you're interested in what a principal is saying that's not your building principal, you still have access to see all of that. So just adding that in there. When must parents notify the district of their decision to keep their children remote come October?
So we'll be sending out something later this week, a form. So some parents have already emailed the principals, but in addition, we will be sending out a form later this week to let parents, so that parents can let us know if they would like their child to be 100% remote. Obviously, the sooner they get back to us, the better it is for our planning. Our deadline will probably be sometime the week before school, and it is really thundering and lightning in Montebello. I'm going down in a minute, I think.
It's yellow outside.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. I only have a few more questions. Will Fridays be a makeup day like it was in the spring, or will Wednesdays be a day, or are we learning all days?
So during remote instruction, Wednesday will be a learning day. When we move to hybrid is when Wednesday will look a little different. I don't anticipate Fridays being a makeup day. It wasn't really in the spring. I mean, I know at times it was a catch-up day, but that wasn't a regularly scheduled thing. It will not be a regularly scheduled thing, especially when we're in hybrid, because that's one of the 2 days, cohort B is in school.
And the distinction this time around is that the students will probably be completing a lot of their work during the classroom blocks with their teachers. So it's not just receiving the assignment and doing it asynchronously. There will be opportunities where they are completing that during that scheduled block.
I see there's some more questions about hybrid and remote and when we're going, and a couple about in-person. I mentioned this the other night, but I think it's worth repeating. The only way we can come back fully in person is if the governor lifts social distancing. We cannot fit all of our children in our buildings and be socially distanced. So the only way we can come back full time is if we no longer need to socially distance.
Can decisions to remain remote or hybrid be revisited quarterly? I'm not sure if they mean for them specifically or the district.
For parents, yes.
Right. There's some more questions about working parents, not ensuring how they're going to work with their kids throughout the day and at night with their work. But I don't. Oh, here's a question. If a child comes to school, well, this is when we go hybrid, has a cold or allergies or a runny nose, are they going to be able to come to school if we do move into a hybrid, or will they be quarantined?
So part of the COVID response in evaluating symptoms is that the medical professional, in our case, the school nurses, would evaluate a child who has shown up to school exhibiting any symptoms. And they would be aware of child's past history, child's allergies, child's asthma, anything like that. And they would be able to best make that decision as to whether it's a COVID symptom or possibly something else. And of course, a big part of it would be the temperature taking as well.
Would YMCA be an option if we go to hybrid for students on the days they are not in school?
I don't know that we would have the space, because when we're hybrid, the other half of the kids are in. So I think that's a space issue with the Y. We can look to see if possibly there is a building where we could manage that, but space is the bigger issue there.
Will fourth graders be able to start instrument, orchestra, band lessons virtually?
Yes.
Yes. When we go to hybrid, are we checking kids' temperatures midday or just in the morning?
Just in the morning, unless there's a reason to later in the day.
Maybe just reiterate what you said in the beginning about working parents and working with them.
Okay. So, I understand this is a challenge for working parents. I am a working parent. You see my kids there behind me. Most of the people on this call are working parents of elementary age children. I think maybe there's only 2 or 3 of you who don't currently have elementary children. We get it. We do. I'm in talks with the Y to see how we can facilitate something with them. Our teachers, I have complete confidence that our teachers will work with families to make sure the kids are getting what they need and the flexibility to get it done when it works for the family. I know this is really hard. And, we're going to do what we can to help and to be flexible and to be there.
Will YMCA be offered in all 5 elementary schools? Do we know that yet?
Well, it's not offered in all 5 now, so.
Well, right, so they're saying, will we be adding or will it stay the same?
I doubt it will be adding, but we haven't had that question. I have not had that conversation with them.
Some parents are concerned about these younger students, first graders, kindergartens, first grades, struggling using these apps on their iPads like Seesaw. And with this more robust schedule, are a little bit more concerned. Will the teachers be spending time getting these kids used to these apps?
The teachers will be doing that. And last year, I have to say, like, even looking at our younger students, we really have to give them more credit because a lot of the students really learned how to use Seesaw even late in the year that never were taught it, never used it in school. So I can, not just speaking for my building, but for other buildings, that teachers were able to teach kids remotely and they were able to learn how to use it. I know it seems like something if your child's never done it before and you've never seen the Google Classroom or how Seesaw works, but between videos, the way the teachers teach it, they really did a good job and kids were able to do it and navigate it on their own. And I think that you will see, given the time, you will see that kids will be able to do it. The proof was last year when we saw kids were able to do this remotely.
I will also say that some of our pre-K programs use Seesaw in the community, and it has a very low entry point. So very young kids can use it, and they catch on pretty quickly. And it's introduced in a very playful way. It's not, complete this assignment right now and use Seesaw to do it. It's take a picture of yourself and add a label to it. It's really done in a fun way that the kids don't even realize that they're learning how to use it.
And what's so great about Seesaw, there's a parent component, so parents can also see the work their children are doing. Many teachers last year held informational sessions for parents to teach them how to use it. And those great videos that Mrs. Druss mentioned, it's very, very user-friendly. And the first graders have used it. So that's really exciting. So they've had experience from the kindergarten. So we are here to support. So parents should take a deep breath and know that we are here to help them through this. The kids will be successful.
Okay, there's, how will NWEA map testing be done?
So that has yet to be determined, and it really does depend on the configuration that we're in. We know the weeks that we would like to do our NWEA testing, and NWEA is actually hosting webinars and has reached out multiple times about the possibility of remote, but no decisions have been made about that yet because we really need to see where we are when those testing administration dates that we have settled on, what configuration we're in at that point.
Okay. I'd like to thank everyone for your time tonight. I want to thank everyone on this call, the principals, Dr. Castaldo, Ms. Perio, Ms. Mermelstein, Mr. Coronado. I want to thank all of our parents for joining us. We're up to about 250 parents on this. I know that I have told you things tonight that you don't want to hear. I understand that. I'm not doing it to hurt you. I'm doing it because of the situation we're in. There are tough decisions that need to be made. I recognize that you don't all agree with my decisions. It's hard. The only way we get through this is together. We support each other. We work together. I know that the people on this call and the teachers in our district, the staff in our district are going to do everything in their power to help you and to help your children. I have total confidence in that. And, it really just will take us continuing to work together. We can't wait to see your children. We can't wait to see their smiling faces, virtually or in person. That's why we do what we do. We do it for them. And so, I look forward to continuing to work together, to hear from you, and to do our best, to do the best we can under the circumstances we're in, to be there for you and your children.
Really quickly, or Lisa, if someone is having questions or doesn't get enough information about BOCES and their district-based programs, who should they reach out to?
They should reach out to their BOCES administrator about the district-based programs, because again, some are in our buildings, but